Late at night on a distant colony world, the wind howled across the barren plains. The sky was dark, filled with storm clouds that flashed with lightning. Inside a small medical outpost on the edge of the colony, Nurse Claire Morgan sat alone at her desk. The sound of the rain hitting the roof was the only thing keeping her company. It had been a quiet night, and she was thinking about finally getting some rest when the emergency alarm suddenly blared through the building. She jumped to her feet. The red lights flashed across the walls as the alert system repeated a message. A transport drone was inbound, carrying a critical patient. Claire hurried to the main bay, her heart beating faster. It was unusual to get emergency deliveries this late, especially from the outer zones. When the doors slid open, a rush of cold, wet air filled the room. A large drone came in, its metal surface slick with rain. Its engines hummed softly as it lowered a heavy, covered shape onto the platform. Claire stepped closer. As she pulled the emergency tarp aside, her breath caught in her throat. It was not a human or an alien she recognized. It was a creature out of old myths and dreams, a dragon. His scales were pale silver, almost glowing in the dim light. He was huge, his body barely fitting on the platform. Blood, dark and strange, leaked from a deep wound on his right wing. She could see metal beneath the torn flesh, as if something mechanical was part of him. It was both beautiful and terrifying. "What are you?" Claire whispered softly, though there was no one to hear her. The dragon's chest rose and fell slowly. He was still alive, but barely. She could not think long. Instinct took over. She turned on the diagnostic scanners and called for the colony's emergency medical link. The system asked for species identification, but there was nothing in the database that matched. She sighed and switched to manual mode. She ran toward the storage cabinets, grabbing supplies, sterile fluid, medgel, and tissue stabilizers. The air smelled of antiseptic and rain. When she returned, she saw the dragon's head move slightly. His eyes opened for a moment. They were a deep golden color, glowing faintly, filled with pain and something else, understanding. Claire froze. She felt as if the creature was studying her, seeing her thoughts. Then his eyes closed again, his breathing weak. "Hang in there," she said softly, even though she had no idea if he could understand. She started to clean the wound. The torn scales were hard as armor, but the tissue beneath was delicate. When she touched the metal veins running under the scales, her scanner showed faint energy readings. It was like the metal was alive. She had seen cybernetic organisms before, but never one this perfect, this seamless. Whoever made him, if he was made at all, was far beyond human technology. For nearly an hour, Claire worked. She used the medgel to seal torn tissue and the stabilizer to stop the bleeding. The dragon shivered a few times but did not wake. The storm outside grew stronger, shaking the walls. She kept her focus, even as exhaustion crept into her body. She had never treated something this strange, and yet, something inside her told her she could not let it die. When the wound was finally sealed, Claire stepped back. She watched as the dragon's breathing grew steadier. The monitors she had connected to his body flickered with unstable readings, some biological, some mechanical. She didn't know what to make of it. She rubbed her eyes and let out a long breath. "You're going to make it," she said, mostly to herself. Suddenly, the drone that had brought him in gave a faint beep and powered down. She checked the system logs. There was no record of who had sent it or from where. The flight path was completely erased. Someone had wanted this creature hidden. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure no one knew he was here. Claire looked back at the dragon. He lay still, the silver of his scales glinting faintly under the lights. She felt an odd sense of calm now, mixed with curiosity. She wondered what kind of world he came from. Maybe he had fallen from some unknown empire in the stars, or maybe he was an ancient being lost to time. Whatever he was hurt and alone, and she was the only one who could help him now. The lights flickered as thunder rolled outside. Claire pulled a chair beside the platform and sat down. She watched the dragon breathe, slow and steady, as the storm raged on. In that quiet room, under the hum of the machines, She didn't notice that the dragon's golden eyes had opened again, watching her silently, with something that looked almost like gratitude. The morning came quietly after the long storm. The sun rose over the plains, its light touching the edges of the medical outpost. Nurse Claire Morgan hadn't slept. She stayed by the dragon's side, checking his readings again and again. Every time she thought he might stop breathing, the monitor would beep softly, showing that he was still alive. Exhaustion made her eyes heavy, but she couldn't bring herself to leave. She stood and stretched, then checked his wound. The med gel had held well, and the torn wings seemed to be healing faster than expected. A faint silver glow pulsed beneath his scales, as if something inside him was repairing itself. Claire frowned and scanned it again. Her handheld device flashed strange readings, patterns she had never seen before. She whispered to herself, "What are you?" Just then, the outpost door slid open. Dr. Ethan Ross entered, shaking rain from his coat. He was tall, a bit older than Claire, with sharp eyes that noticed everything. He looked at the platform and froze when he saw the dragon. "What in the stars is that?" he asked. "A patient," Claire said quietly. "He came in during the night." The drone brought him in without any identification. Ethan stepped closer, eyes wide. "This isn't possible. Part of him looks mechanical." Claire nodded. "I thought the same. He's organic, but there's metal in him, living metal. I've never seen anything like it." They began running deeper scans together. The machines hummed as they processed data. The results made no sense: nanostructures, neural links, hybrid organs that looked more advanced than anything humans could build. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. If this is real, then someone out there has technology way beyond the Union. Maybe even beyond the Empire. Claire looked at him. "So what do we do?" Ethan sighed. "We report it, of course. Central Command will want to study him." "No." The word came out sharper than Claire expected. Ethan looked at her, surprised. She hesitated, then said, "He's hurt. He's alive. If we report this, they'll take him apart in a lab. I can't let that happen." Ethan frowned. "Claire, this isn't some wild animal. This could be dangerous." "I know," she said softly. "But look at him. He's not attacking. He's just surviving." For a moment, they both stood silently, watching the creature breathe. Then the monitors flickered, and the air grew heavy. Claire felt a strange pressure in her mind, like a whisper brushing against her thoughts. She looked around, confused. Ethan rubbed his temples. "Did you feel that?" Before she could answer, the dragon stirred. His eyes opened, deep gold, bright and focused. Claire took a step back. The creature's gaze locked onto her. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then a voice echoed softly, not through sound, but through their minds. "Where am I?" Claire gasped. "You can speak." The dragon's head lifted slightly. His voice was weak but calm. "Your world, not mine. You healed me." Ethan's face went pale. He looked from the dragon to Claire, speechless. Claire swallowed hard, unsure if she was dreaming. I didn't know you could understand us," she said slowly. "I understand many tongues," the dragon replied. "You are human?" "Yes," Claire said. "My name is Claire. This is Dr. Ethan Ross. You were badly hurt. We found you last night." The dragon's eyes closed briefly, as if remembering. "I fell far, betrayed." His breathing grew uneven, his body trembling. Claire hurried to adjust the med systems, afraid he might go into shock. "Easy," she said gently. "You need rest. Don't talk." But the dragon shook his head. "They will come," he murmured. "They will find me." "Who?" Ethan asked. "Who's coming?" There was no answer. The dragon's eyes dimmed again, and he slipped back into unconsciousness. Ethan turned to Claire, his voice low. "This thing just spoke telepathically. If he's telling the truth, someone or something is hunting him. We can't keep this secret for long." Claire looked at the still form of the dragon. She didn't know why, but a quiet determination filled her. "Then we'll just have to make sure they don't find him," she said. Ethan stared at her. You're serious? Yes, she replied. He trusted us. I can feel it. Ethan rubbed his chin. This could cost us everything. Then it's worth it, Claire said softly. She turned to the dragon again, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Outside, the storm clouds began to break, and the first light of morning fell across his silver scales. She didn't know what he truly was or what danger he had brought with him, but she knew one thing. She couldn't abandon him now. Night returned to the colony world with a quiet calm. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of rain and ozone. Inside the small medical outpost, the lights were dim. Nurse Claire Morgan sat by the dragon's side, watching the slow rhythm of his breathing. The machines around them hummed softly. Dr. Ethan Ross had gone to rest for a few hours, leaving Claire alone again. She looked at the dragon, at his strange beauty and mystery. His scales shimmered faintly under the faint blue lights, and she could still see traces of metal beneath them. Her curiosity grew stronger with each passing hour. She wanted to understand what he was, where he came from, and why he had spoken of betrayal and danger. As she adjusted the scanners, a soft pulse of energy spread from the dragon's body. The monitors flickered for a second, then stabilized. Claire leaned closer. "Are you awake?" she asked quietly. There was no response at first. Then, a voice brushed against her mind again, soft, but clearer than before. "You stayed." Claire gasped slightly, glancing around. "Yes," she said after a moment. "You needed help." The dragon's golden eyes opened. They glowed faintly, reflecting the light. "You risk much," he said in her thoughts. "Humans. They fear what they do not understand." Claire smiled faintly. "Maybe, but sometimes we try to understand instead of fear." There was a long pause. Then the dragon asked, "What do they call you?" "Claire," she replied softly. "And you? What's your name?" He hesitated. "Kale." She repeated it gently. "Kale." The name felt strange but strong. "You said last night that someone betrayed you. Who were they?" Kale's eyes dimmed slightly. "My own," he said. "Those who once called me brother. They feared my rule. They feared the unity I built." Claire frowned, unsure if she understood. "Your rule?" she asked. "You mean you were a leader?" Kale's voice was quiet, but full of old sorrow. "Emperor. Once, long ago, my kind ruled the skies and the stars beyond them. But the empire fell to greed and fear. My council turned on me, tore my wings, and left me to die among the void." Claire felt a chill run through her. An emperor? It sounded impossible. And yet, the way he spoke carried weight, like truth worn by time. She shook her head, trying to make sense of it. "Then how did you end up here?" "A friend saved me," Kale said. "They placed me in a vessel and sent me far from the Empire's reach. I thought I would die, but I woke here, in your world." Claire's voice softened. "You're safe now. We won't let anyone find you." Kale's gaze met hers. "They will come, Claire. They will seek what they lost. They fear what still breathes." She didn't answer. Deep down, she knew he might be right. If the Empire, or whatever remnants of it existed, were powerful enough to travel the stars, they could track him even here. But she also knew she couldn't abandon him. She looked at his torn wing, now almost sealed. The metallic veins pulsed faintly, as if alive. "Your wing," she said quietly. "It's healing faster than anything I've seen. Your body, how does it work?" Kale's head tilted slightly. "My body is a bridge between flesh and machine. The nanites in my blood rebuild what is broken. They are the last gift of the first forges. We were made to endure." Claire listened in awe. "You're like something from a story," she said softly. "A legend." He gave a faint, tired smile. "Perhaps, but legends die too." Before she could reply, the base sensors beeped softly. She turned to check the console. An incoming signal blinked across the screen. An unidentified ship entering the atmosphere. Claire's heart skipped. No one was supposed to arrive for days. She quickly called Ethan over the comms. "Ethan, wake up. "We have a visitor." His voice came back, groggy but alert. "Who is it?" "Unknown signature. Not from the colony fleet." There was a pause. Then Ethan said, "Lock down the outpost." "I'm on my way." Claire turned off the external lights and sealed the main door. Cale's eyes glowed brighter, sensing the tension. "They are here," he said softly. "The Empire's shadow reaches even this far." Claire looked at him, fear and determination mixing in her chest. "Then we'll be ready for them." Outside, the faint hum of engines echoed through the night sky. Somewhere beyond the hills, something descended through the clouds, searching. The air outside the outpost grew heavy with the sound of distant engines. Flashes of blue light rippled through the clouds as an unknown ship descended toward the surface. Nurse Claire Morgan stood by the window, watching the storm clouds swirl again. The scanners showed a large vessel landing a few kilometers away. Her pulse quickened. Whoever it was, they had come for Cale. Dr. Ethan Ross hurried into the room, still pulling on his coat. His face was pale, his voice tense. "I've checked the readings. That ship doesn't match any colonial registry. It's not from the Union." Claire turned toward him. "Then it's them, isn't it? The ones he warned us about." Ethan nodded slowly. "Looks that way. And if they're here, we don't have much time." Behind them, the dragon stirred. His golden eyes opened, glowing brighter than before. "They have found me," Cale said, his voice echoing softly in their minds. "The Empire's hunters." Claire stepped closer to him. "Then we'll move you. We can take you to the old tunnels under the ridge. They're shielded from scanners." Cale shook his head weakly. "No. They will search everywhere. You must leave me." "No," Claire said firmly. "We're not leaving you. Not after everything." Ethan looked between them. "We'll have to buy time, then. Maybe we can mask your energy signature long enough for them to lose interest." Cale's eyes narrowed slightly. "You would risk your lives for one who is not your kind?" Claire met his gaze. "You're not a monster. You're a living being who needs help. That's all that matters." For a moment, silence filled the room. The hum of the equipment and the distant thunder were the only sounds. Then Cale gave a slow nod. "Very well. If you will stand with me, I will trust you." Ethan began working quickly, pulling cables from the diagnostic console. "We can reroute the power through the shield dampeners. It might hide his signal." Claire helped, her hands steady despite the fear in her chest. Outside, the faint glow of the descending ship grew stronger. She could see searchlights sweeping across the plains, scanning the ground like hungry eyes. Minutes later, the lights of the outpost dimmed as Ethan activated the dampening field. "That should mask him for now," he said. "But it won't hold if they get too close." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside. Something heavy hit the ground nearby. Claire's heart jumped. She ran to the security screen and saw tall, armored figures stepping out of the mist. Their armor gleamed black and silver, marked with strange symbols. Each one carried a plasma rifle. They moved with precision, scanning the area. "Imperial troopers," Cale said grimly. "They hunt what they once served." Claire turned back to him. "Can you move at all?" "Not yet," he said softly. "My strength is not whole." Ethan whispered, "We're out of options." Claire looked around, thinking fast. Then her eyes fell on the medchamber, a sealed pod used for emergency stasis. "We could hide him there," she said quickly. "It blocks life readings completely." Ethan hesitated. "If we put him in stasis, it might slow his healing." "It's better than letting them find him," Claire said firmly. Cale's gaze softened. "You are brave, Claire Morgan. Too brave for your world." She smiled faintly. "Then let's make that bravery count." Working together, they carefully helped Cale into the medchamber. The pod adjusted to his massive frame, lights flickering as it sealed. The hum of energy filled the room as the readings vanished from the scanners. Just in time, heavy footsteps echoed outside the door. A voice rang through the intercom, cold and mechanical. "This is Commander Vore of the Imperial Reclamation Fleet. We have detected an anomaly within this facility." Open your doors immediately. Ethan looked at Claire, whispering, "What do we do?" Claire took a deep breath. "We stall." The door slid open, and a group of soldiers entered, weapons raised. Their armor gleamed under the outpost lights. The commander, tall and imposing, stepped forward. His helmet's visor glowed red. "Identify yourselves," he demanded. "Colonial medics," Claire said calmly, forcing her voice not to shake. "We received an emergency drone last night. No identification, no pilot." The commander scanned the room, his gaze lingering on the sealed medchamber. "What is in that pod?" Claire met his gaze. "A patient. Unstable vitals. Radiation burns." The commander turned to one of his soldiers. "Scan it." The soldier lifted a device, and for a tense moment, Claire held her breath. The screen flickered, then went blank. "No life signs detected," the soldier said. "It's empty." For paused, then turned away. "We move on. The signal may have shifted." As they left, Claire exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled, but she didn't let it show. Once the doors closed again, Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. That was too close. Claire nodded, turning to the medchamber. Inside, through the faint light, Kale's golden eyes flickered open for a brief moment. She thought she saw a small, grateful smile before the stasis mist covered him again. Outside, the ship's engines roared as the search continued. But for now, Kale was safe. At least for tonight. Hours passed after the Imperial soldiers left the outpost. The sky outside turned dark again, and the wind carried the smell of burned fuel from the ships that had searched the plains. Nurse Claire Morgan sat in silence, her hands still trembling from what had happened. Dr. Ethan Ross paced back and forth, glancing nervously at the sealed medchamber that held Kale. "They'll come back," Ethan said quietly. "If they don't find what they're looking for, they'll start scanning deeper. They might even bring in drones." Claire nodded, rubbing her tired eyes. "Then we can't stay here. We'll have to move him." "Move him where?" Ethan asked. "He's not exactly easy to hide." Claire walked over to the window, staring at the distant hills where faint lights from the Imperial camp flickered. "The mining tunnels," she said. "The old network under Ridge 7. They're shielded by the rock formations. It might be enough to block their sensors." Ethan sighed. "Those tunnels have been abandoned for years. No power, no life support." "Then we'll make it work," Claire replied. "We don't have another choice." Ethan didn't argue. After everything that had happened, he knew she was right. They couldn't risk the Empire finding Kale. He began preparing a transport sled, while Claire entered the medchamber controls. With a soft hiss, the stasis field released, and Kale's form slowly reappeared through the mist. His eyes opened, faintly glowing gold again. "They are gone?" he asked in a weak voice. "For now," Claire said. "But they'll be back. We need to move you." Kale looked at her silently for a moment. "You defy the Empire for me." "Why?" Claire met his gaze. "Because I've seen what they do to those they call enemies. And because I know you're not the monster they think you are." Kale's eyes softened. "You have courage, Claire Morgan. It is rare among your kind." Ethan interrupted, rolling the sled beside the chamber. "We can talk later. We need to leave before sunrise." Moving Kale wasn't easy. His body was massive, and even with the sled's anti-gravity assist, it took both of them to guide him carefully through the narrow halls. The outpost lights flickered as the power drained from the systems they had rerouted earlier. By the time they reached the transport bay, the sky outside had turned pale blue. As they loaded Kale into the small cargo rover, he looked toward the rising sun. "Your world is beautiful," he said softly. "It reminds me of mine. Before the war." Claire climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. "Hold on," she said. "It's a rough ride to Ridge 7. The rover sped across the plains, kicking up dust as it moved away from the outpost. Behind them, faint trails of smoke marked the Empire's camp. For a while, no one spoke. Only the hum of the engine filled the air. Finally, Ethan said, "You know this can't go on forever." If they realize what we're doing, we'll be wanted too. Claire kept her eyes on the horizon. Then we'll run as far as we have to. As they neared the ridge, the terrain grew rougher. Broken rock formations jutted out like teeth, and the entrance to the tunnels was hidden behind a fallen transport wreck from years ago. Claire parked the rover beside it. "This is it," she said. "Help me get him inside." They guided Cale carefully into the darkness. The tunnels smelled of rust and dust, but the walls were thick, lined with old shielding panels. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. Eventually, they reached an old maintenance room that still had some working power cells. Ethan reconnected the systems and dim lights flickered on. Claire helped Cale lie down on a wide platform. He looked weaker now, his breathing shallow. "The energy I used to hide myself drains what strength remains," he said quietly. Claire frowned. "Then rest. We'll protect you." Cale's eyes glowed faintly. "You protect more than me, Claire Morgan. You protect hope." For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. She placed a hand gently on his metallic scales. "Get some rest," she whispered. "You'll need it." As Cale closed his eyes, Ethan checked the perimeter sensors. "We're hidden for now," he said. "But if those soldiers start scanning the ridge, they'll find us eventually." Claire looked at him. "Then we'll move again if we have to. He's not dying here." Ethan smiled faintly. "You sound like you actually believe he can survive this." She looked back at the dragon, his body faintly glowing in the dim light. "I don't just believe," she said softly. "I know." Outside the tunnels, the first light of dawn touched the plains, but deep within the shadows, the wounded emperor began to heal, and the bond between human and dragon grew stronger. Days passed in the hidden tunnels under Ridge 7. Nurse Claire Morgan and Dr. Ethan Ross worked tirelessly to help Cale recover. The makeshift medical equipment, though old and limited, provided enough support for his body to slowly regain strength. The metallic veins under his scales pulsed brighter now, repairing tissues that had once been torn and weak. Cale stirred, lifting his massive head. "I feel stronger," he said, his golden eyes glowing. "But my enemies draw near. Their fleets sweep the skies. They will not rest until they find me." Claire placed a hand gently on his shimmering scales. "Then we'll be ready. We've learned a lot about your abilities, and we can plan." Ethan joined them, holding a series of maps and sensor charts. "I've been monitoring their patrols. They've increased frequency near the colony, but they haven't pinpointed the tunnels. For now, you're safe." Cale closed his eyes briefly. Safe is temporary. Survival is eternal. He opened them again, intensity in his gaze. "I must regain flight. Without it, I am vulnerable. Without it, the Empire may never believe I am alive." Claire nodded. "Then we'll help you heal fully. But you'll need more than your body. We'll need strategy too." Over the next days, Claire and Ethan devised plans, practicing simulations and testing the tunnel's structural limits. Cale, despite his size and fragile state, attempted to flex his wings, the metallic veins stretching and repairing minute tears. The process was slow, but his determination was unmatched. One evening, as the faint light from outside barely reached the tunnels, Cale lifted himself slightly, testing the strength of his right wing. "The nanites are repairing faster than I expected," he said. "Your care accelerates it." Claire smiled softly. "We're just doing what we can. You've been through so much." Suddenly, the tunnel sensors flickered. Ethan checked the monitors frantically. "They're here. Ships approaching fast." Cale's body tensed. "Then it begins. Prepare yourselves." Outside, the Empire's fleet darkened the skies. Searchlights and energy scans swept across the ridge, but the tunnel's shielding kept them hidden. Inside, Claire and Ethan held their positions as Cale slowly stood on the platform, his wings fully extended now. The metallic veins glowed brighter, signaling full power return. "You must show them who I am," Cale said softly. "Fear will drive them away, if only for a moment." Claire hesitated, but she could see the strength returning to him. "Then we'll do this together," she said. Cale leapt from the platform, landing on the rocky tunnel floor with controlled force. He flapped his wings carefully at first, creating small gusts that stirred dust from the walls. With each beat, he grew stronger, more confident. Ethan whispered, "He's amazing. I've never seen anything like this." Kale's golden eyes glimmered. "This is the moment before reckoning. The Empire believes me dead. They are unprepared for my return." Outside, a scout ship approached the ridge, sensors sweeping in patterns designed to detect life. Inside the tunnel, Kale positioned himself at the entrance. He flared his wings, sending a controlled shockwave through the ridge. The scout ship's instruments went haywire, blinking erratically as their sensors failed. The crew struggled to regain control, unable to penetrate the tunnel's shielding. Claire exhaled, amazed. "It worked. You've protected us." Kale lowered his wings slightly, his gaze meeting hers. "You have saved me as much as I have saved you. Your courage is the strength of humans. Without it, I would have fallen long ago." Ethan nodded slowly. "We've bought time, but we can't stay here forever. They'll adapt." Kale's gaze hardened. "Then we move when the time comes. The Empire will learn that the dragon lives, and they will learn that they cannot control him." In the shadowed tunnels beneath Ridge 7, the Emperor Dragon stretched his wings fully, the metallic veins glowing with power. The humans who had saved him watched with awe. For the first time since his betrayal, Kale felt the surge of strength and purpose returning, ready to face the Empire that had once tried to destroy him. The days in the tunnels passed quickly, though each one carried the weight of anticipation. Kale had regained most of his strength, his wings now fully healed and his body pulsing with renewed energy. Claire and Ethan continued their careful monitoring, ensuring that the dragon remained stable while preparing for what they knew would be a dangerous escape. "We can't stay here forever," Ethan said, studying the charts of Imperial patrols. "They'll adapt. They'll start sending drones through the ridge, scanning deeper than ever." Claire nodded. "Then we leave soon. We can use the cargo rover again, with some modifications to carry him above ground quickly. Once we're in the plains, Kale can take flight." Kale observed quietly, his golden eyes scanning the maps projected on the wall. "Time is short," he said softly. "We must act before they discover the tunnels. Once they do, there will be no sanctuary left." Preparations took the better part of the night. Ethan reinforced the rover's anti-gravity system to handle Kale's weight, while Claire gathered supplies, medgel, rations, and a compact shield generator they could activate if detected. Kale, resting on the platform, flexed his wings, feeling the strength returning fully. When the first light of dawn touched the ridge, Claire and Ethan helped Kale into the rover. The engines hummed as they navigated the rough terrain leading to the plains. Kale's eyes remained alert, scanning the horizon for any sign of Imperial scouts. "They might have discovered the ridge," Ethan whispered, his voice tense. "Be ready for anything." Kale nodded, his wings folded for now but ready to expand at a moment's notice. "I trust your guidance, Claire. Lead us through the plains." The ride was rough, dust kicking up around the vehicle, but the rover's anti-gravity system kept Kale stable. The further they went, the clearer the sky became, revealing a faint glimmer of Imperial scouts searching the area. Their small ships flitted across the plains like predatory birds, scanning relentlessly. "We're not going to make it quietly," Ethan said. "They're already on our trail." Claire swallowed hard but kept her hands steady on the controls. "Then we won't make it quietly. Kale, get ready." With a powerful flap of his wings, Kale lifted from the rover before they reached the edge of the plains. The vehicle slowed as he soared above it, the first time he had flown freely in weeks. His golden eyes scanned the sky, identifying threats with ease. Imperial drones approached, but Kale's sheer presence created shockwaves that disabled them before they could get close. "Incredible," Ethan muttered. "He's defending himself and us." Kale's voice echoed in Claire's mind. "Stay close, human. Hold to courage. It will carry you through." The trio moved across the plains with speed and precision. The drone fleet scattered under Kale's defensive maneuvers. Imperial ships pursued them, but Kale's wings carried him higher and faster than any machine could follow. Below, the terrain twisted and shifted, hiding them from scanners and forcing the enemy to adjust constantly. Hours passed in tense flight. Then, in a narrow canyon, Kale guided the humans to a hidden landing site, a small cliff ledge that overlooked a valley thick with forests. "We rest here," he said. "From this vantage, we can plan the next move. The Empire cannot reach me without risk." Claire helped Kale settle, her hands brushing his metallic scales to ensure no injuries remained. Ethan activated a temporary shield generator, masking them from sensors and satellites. The valley below was serene, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Kale looked down at the forest, the sunlight dancing on the treetops. "Your world is beautiful," he said quietly. "It reminds me of hope. Perhaps it is why I survived." Claire smiled, exhausted but relieved. "Then we make it worth surviving." Ethan nodded. "For now we're safe, but we have to be ready. The Empire won't give up." Kale flexed his wings once more, the metallic veins shimmering in the sunlight. "Let them come," he said. "For when they do, they will learn that the dragon has returned. And they will remember the strength of the humans who stand with me." In the hidden valley, with the Empire far above and the humans at his side, Kale took a deep breath. The fight was not over, but the first victory had been claimed. And together, they prepared for the battles ahead, bound by trust, courage, and the hope of freedom. As the sun rose over the hidden valley, Nurse Claire Morgan and Dr. Ethan Ross prepared for the day ahead. Kale rested atop a high cliff, his wings fully spread, glinting in the sunlight. The Empire had yet to locate their hiding place, but they would not remain hidden for long. Claire and Ethan moved cautiously, ensuring supplies were in order and shields were active. Kale opened his golden eyes, scanning the horizon. "They come," he said softly. "But this time we are ready." Claire looked at him, determination in her eyes. "We've faced them before and we survived. We'll do it again." Far above, the Empire's ships emerged from the clouds. Their search patterns were precise, but Kale's presence disrupted their sensors. He flexed his wings, creating powerful shockwaves that forced the fleet to adjust. Drones faltered, ships wobbled, and the Imperial crew struggled to regain control. Kale's voice echoed in Claire's mind. "Stay close, trust your instincts." The humans watched in awe as Kale swooped low, unleashing controlled bursts of energy that disabled the approaching vessels. The dragon's metallic veins pulsed with power, amplifying his attacks and defending both him and his human allies. Each move was precise, calculated, and awe-inspiring. One ship, larger and more menacing than the rest, attempted to flank them. Kale soared above it, golden eyes locked on its control systems. With a single strike, he sent a burst of energy into the ship, temporarily disabling its engines. The vessel tumbled, sending smaller drones scattering. Claire and Ethan clung to a secure platform on the cliffside, hearts racing. "He's incredible," Ethan whispered. "This is more than survival. It's a show of force." Kale landed briefly beside them, breathing heavily. "The Empire feared me, and for good reason. They will hesitate now, knowing the dragon lives." Claire placed a hand on his shimmering scales. "You've done it. They'll remember you." He looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "And you, Claire Morgan, have saved more than a life. You have saved hope itself." With the Empire momentarily retreating, Kale spread his wings once more. He lifted into the sky, carrying the humans along in a small, protected anti-gravity pod. Together, they ascended above the clouds, leaving the valley and Imperial ships behind. Below, the Empire's fleet regrouped, but hesitation lingered in their ranks. As they flew, Kale spoke softly. "This is not the end. The Empire will seek me again. But now, they know that the dragon cannot be controlled." Claire smiled, gazing at the vast horizon. "Then we keep moving. We stay free, and we protect you." Ethan nodded. "And we'll find a way to fight back if they return." The dragon roared into the open sky, a sound that echoed across the plains and mountains below. Golden light shimmered across his scales, a beacon of strength and survival. Together, the humans and the dragon moved forward, free from immediate threat, their bond stronger than ever. Weeks later, stories of a golden-eyed dragon protecting humans in distant valleys began to spread across colonies. Legends formed, and whispers of hope inspired those who had feared the Empire's reach. Kale, the Emperor thought lost, now soared once more among the stars, healed and unbroken. And in the quiet moments, he remembered the humans who had saved him, not just from death, but from despair. And he knew that together, their courage would shape the future.